Unless you're a die-hard Pirates fan, I'm pretty sure 99.9% of us have never heard of Rodolfo Castro, but look at what he did yesterday. A grand slam against the Phillies, and the ball completely left the stadium. So maybe that is one shining light if you're a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. You have Brian Hayes and possibly Rodolfo Castro making some noise in 2021. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to make the squad, but I wanted to give him a shout out because dang, that ball went a long way. What's going on, everyone? It's Fuzzy. Welcome back to yet another MLB recap. I'm trying to pump up the energy because I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit tired. This whole daylight saving thing is just kicking my you-know-what. But we have three themes of today's video. Marketing, baseball is not very good at it, and they're fining Trevor Bauer for actually marketing himself. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how he went off on Robert Manfred and the rest of the league. We have umpires being obnoxious. They just left the game. They said, hey, we're tired. We're going home. You're not paying us, so we're not going to be here. So we'll talk about why they're on a power surge over the last decade. I don't really like umpires ever since my playing days. And then also service time manipulation. We're going to go in depth with that. Now, if you are brand new to the channel, do not be afraid to hit subscribe. We're on the road to 300,000 subs before opening day. And we have a second video coming out later today. It's a banger. We're going to rank the best duos, the top 10 duos in all of baseball. The number one spot, it might surprise you. Real quick before we get into the news, look at this at bat. So Jordan Hicks comes into the game, and as you can see, he's got 11 pitches, 12 pitches, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This was a 22 pitch at bat from Luis Guillorme. Absolutely insane. I mean, how can you not love baseball? Breaking news coming out of Baltimore, Maikel Franco has finally found a squad, which is super surprising. I can't believe it took this long, considering he almost had 40 RBIs and played in every single game just a year ago, 60 out of 60, and he had a 109 OPS plus. That is pretty solid. So considering the Orioles still have a few other players that are competing for that third base job, Maikel Franco is not even guaranteed a starting position. The umpires of the Cleveland versus Giants game a few days ago just left. So I kind of understand why, because the game was over, but the Indians and the Giants agreed to keep playing to give their players a little bit more work. But the umpire said, hey, we're part of a union, and unless you want to pay us for that bottom of the ninth, we're not going to stay. So that's exactly what happened. They left. I'm not sure how that works in regards to the pay structure, but they weren't going to stick around unless they were going to get some money. And there was even a 5-ball walk to Austin Slater. It was just very strange. And to be honest with you, this was not a good look for the game of baseball. I mean, maybe if you had a birthday party to get to or you had important dinner plans, I understand, but you can't stick around for one more half inning. Man, umpires just... So we're going to talk about Bobby Witt Jr. in just a second, who could be one of the best shortstops in baseball in the next year or two. But before we do that, Francisco Lindor came out and said, nah. Fernando Tatis, Trevor Story, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa. You guys are all forgetting about what I've done the last few years, because he came out and officially said that he is the best shortstop in all of baseball. And I'm not going to lie, dude, he looks confident.
Who's the best shortstop in the game today?
I think I'm the best shortstop in the game. I think I'm the best shortstop in the game. 2 by 2, I'm not the best 2 player out there. Watch all of them, I have fun, I enjoy all of them. Without being arrogant or cocky, I think I'm the best shortstop.
Now, in my opinion, you can't really say that he is the definitive best shortstop going into the 2021 season, because just a year ago, he admitted to kind of quitting on Cleveland. He wasn't working out. He wasn't staying in shape. He had his worst season in the big leagues, and then he was awful in the postseason. I know it was only 2 games, but he wasn't very good. It's just one of those things that you have to take into consideration his entire career, but then also factor in the last season and a half has not been too great to him. Is he the best shortstop in baseball? In the comment section down below, I want you to rank your top 5. Do it. Now, I truly believe that in the next 5 years, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be in your top 5 shortstop conversation. Look at his hands. He was able to turn on an inside pitch and yank it over the fence. He has one of the quickest swings I've ever seen in my life, and the quickest hands. I mean, he could star in a Wild Wild West cowboy movie. That's how quick his hands are. I'm really hoping that the Royals are able to understand what they have in front of them. The talent is limitless. They'll probably hold him down to manipulate the service time, which we will talk about in just a second. But yeah, Bobby Witt Jr. Jr. continues to shine for the Kansas City Royals. Before we move on, I just found one more clip of Bobby Witt Jr. from yesterday's game. He scores from second on a ball that doesn't leave the infield. Kenta Maeda and Byron Buxton showed up yesterday. Maeda threw 4 innings of no-hit baseball, and then Buxton, after coming back from breaking his teeth on a piece of steak, yeah, he's going yard, and I'm expecting 70 home runs and 70 stolen bases from Mr. Buxton. Now, of course, I'm being dramatic. That is probably never going to happen in the history of baseball. But one more player I did want to mention in that little matchup of the Twins versus the Red Sox, Nathan Eovaldi, he got lit up. He gave up a few runs, but he touched 100 miles an hour 10 times. So it seems like the flamethrower Nathan Eovaldi, he's back, he's healthy, and he's ready for a comeback 2021. He's just, he's had one good stretch of baseball, and that was in the 2018 postseason when they beat the Dodgers. But aside from that, he's been very underwhelming. Speaking of the Dodgers, let's talk about how Trevor Bauer absolutely went off on Robert Manfred and the marketing issue over at Major League Baseball. So there are two sides to this story, but let me bring up the context first. So Trevor Bauer wore a belt a few days ago in his start that had his Bauer outage logo on it, and you can barely see it because Trevor, he provided evidence that he did in fact get a warning, so I guess he wasn't fined yet, but he will if he continues to wear that belt. Why are we so nitpicky? It's a belt with the logo that you can barely see, and then he's getting warning letters and all this different stuff. It's just like baseball is so behind the 8 ball. But like I said, there are two different sides. Trevor is getting clowned on because they're pretty much saying, hey, you expect other people to follow the rules, but then you don't want to follow the rules and not have a normal belt. So the other side of the argument is that, hey, stupid rules are meant to be broken. Yeah, you should follow the rules, but if it's stupid in the case of you can't market yourself, and I understand that he plays under a corporation that is Major League Baseball, so you have to live within those restrictions, but come on, man. A little pixelated Bauer outage logo on your belt, you can't have that? I don't know, that's just weird to me. I know Trevor Bauer is a bit controversial and a lot of people either love him or hate him, but I want you all to let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. Do you believe that Trevor should just suck it up and get his paycheck and follow in line with everyone else who is following the rules? Or do you think that he has a point when he says, hey, I'm not harming anyone, it's just a little logo on my belt? That's like if I was making these videos, I couldn't have this glove over here from Easton because YouTube doesn't have a sponsorship from Easton. I would hate it if YouTube sent me an email and say, hey, you can't have that Boba Fett helmet in your backdrop. It just expresses who I am. It shows off that I'm an individual, part of a corporation. Yes, I understand that you have to live by the rules, but sometimes there are stupid rules. Let's go ahead and shout out a few prospects that are not getting a lot of talk, but I wanted to give them a moment in the sun. Jonathan Araz, I don't know if that's how you say it. He leads everyone in runs and doubles. Now, speaking of doubles, Bobby Bradley, he is second in doubles as well as second in RBIs. And then Colton Welker of the Rockies, he's also turning heads with 9 RBIs. He is tied with Bobby Bradley. Now, in the intro, I talked about how we were going to discuss service time manipulation. And here is a prime example. Mickey Moniak, the #1 overall pick in 2016. He has been raking in spring training so far. He is 6 for 15 with 5 extra base hits. But for the second day in a row, he is not in the starting lineup. I cannot understand why. You drafted him #1 overall. It's been 5 years since you did that. Go ahead and give him a starting spot. He's been absolutely torching baseballs. No, they want to manipulate the service time because he's finally showing some promise. I mean, I can't wait for that to be changed in the next CBA. Now, sticking with the Phillies, real quick, I want to talk about how Matt Moore has a 1.13 ERA in spring training. Now, again, I say this in almost every single video. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if he's going to be the prime Matt Moore when he was back with the Rays, if he's going to be able to replicate that success for the Phillies, but if he can be a solid 4 or 5 starter, I mean, that's good. A few young guys I want to bring up, Adley Rutschman and Ryan Mountcastle of the Baltimore Orioles. They've been getting a few cuts. Unfortunately, Adley Rutschman went hitless yesterday, and on the flip side, Ryan Mountcastle was able to rack up a few base hits, and then Dean Kremer had a fantastic start. So maybe if the Orioles can continue to find young pieces and have them perform a little bit better than expected, they could be relevant in the next 3 to 5 years, but for the most part, I don't really expect much from the Orioles. Now, one team we all have high expectations for, even though they lost out on Charlie Morton and Blake Snell, the Tampa Bay Rays, and that's because their prospects are so good. They have Luis Patino, they have Vidal Brujan, who is probably going to make the Major League roster after Brett Phillips went down with an injury. He had a few hits yesterday and also made a pretty good web gem at second base a few days ago. Wander Franco, the #1 prospect in all of baseball, he has been reassigned, so he will not be on the squad for opening day, which just makes me mad. I mean, it was expected, but it's still sad to see. Yesterday, the Astros faced off against the Nationals, so a repeat of the 2019 World Series. Lance McCullers and Steven Strasburg both looked really good. I don't really care about the offense, the pitchers, that's all that really matters. Strasburg, he had a strong start, but he left the game with a calf injury. The reports are it's not that serious. It was probably just a cramp. And then Lance McCullers, it looks like he has a new kind of slider. He's looking really good. He's very underrated. I keep forgetting to bring him up in regards to the 2021 Astros projected rotation. He's going to be solid. And then last but not least, a few more young pitchers I wanted to bring up. Debbie Garcia, who was fighting for that number 5 spot in the rotation. He had a fantastic outing yesterday, so he is showing the Yankees that he is ready and he can have that 5 spot pretty much all to himself. And then the Blue Jays, with Alex Manoah and Simeon Woods Richardson combined, they have 15 strikeouts in about 10 innings. They have been absolutely dominant. So even though Nate Pearson is on the shelf with an injury, maybe the Blue Jays have to rely on these guys and they could perform pretty well. All right, everyone, well, that does it for today's MLB recap. We talked about a lot today. So if you watched all the way until the end, I really appreciate it. Remember to turn on your bells and subscribe because we have a second video coming out later. It's a banger. I promise you it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you guys there.